I'd like to know what my colleagues have been paying attention to and what has stood out for them over the weekend. And right next to me is Jerome Stonko. Good morning.
Good morning, Olive.
How are you?
I am well. You've mentioned something about the TikTok content that Ugandans produce. And there's an argument that many times Ugandan receivers or the people who consume this content prefer that content to the majority, according to many of these content creators. If you ever get a chance to listen to, their arguments on the type of content they release, they will tell you this is what Ugandans want to listen to, this is what Ugandans want to watch, and that's what pushes us to continue doing the content. But again, I like your argument because at times it is not sustainable content in terms of money creating ventures, because when you look at the kind of deals that many of the TikTokers are gathering or content creators in the country, only those that are producing meaningful content are receiving bigger deals or have been able to receive those deals for many years down the road, especially after TikTok coming in. But for those that produce abusive content, you realize even the kind of commodities they represent at times, and even the deals that they represent or that they sign do not even last for long because of the kind of content that they kind of make and produce.
Also, I think, Jerome, that there is a bit of laziness because yesterday, like I shared earlier, I took time to go through the content that is made by the Ugandans who think that that's the content that works for us. And in my observation, it turns out that there is laziness. Everyone is talking about the same thing. Everyone is gossiping about the same thing.
In fact,
and at the end
most of our
day,
content is filled up with gossip.
Exactly. And it's not helping. Take me to the side of content creation where I'm going to learn something that changes my mind, that changes my perspective on life. This is what people that are based in the United States or Americans themselves, this is the content they are giving us. And it is shaping our perspectives.
Well, indeed. And for those of you who have been following the American content, I think many of your For You page was really boring, just like Olive has mentioned or shared here. But then also, Olive, the month of January is cervical cancer awareness month. And interestingly, figures coming in from the Uganda Cancer Institute have revealed that annually we have 36,000 fresh new cancer cases. Now, out of those, you will get to realize that 20%, which is 7,000 of the cases reported are of cervical cancer. Now, the sad bit of the statistic also shows that 40% of those cases are on the side of the women, meaning that we, as much as we are looking into cancer or general cancers around the country, we really need to pay attention to every bit of the cancers that seem to be deadly. Because let's face it, everyone who is diagnosed with anyone who is actually diagnosed at times stands a huge chance of survival, especially if he has noticed the cases or he has actually noticed the symptoms quite earlier on, or if they've gone into early screening. So the issue here is, from the Uganda Cancer Institute, is the issue also causing us to have such figures and quite uncontrollable deaths at time is because of low screening uptake, and then also the fact that people get to know late about the fact that they do have the cancers.
Which is really sad, Jerome. And also on the same note, I came across an article which said that cervical cancer among women is more among women that have used oral contraceptives for 5 or more years and have a higher risk of cervical cancer than women who have never used oral contraceptives. Also in the same article, it noted that the longer a woman uses oral contraceptives, the greater the increase in her risk of cervical cancer. And one study found a 10% increased risk for less than 5 years of use, a 60% increased risk with 5 to 9 years of use, and a doubling of the risk with 10 or more years of use. So it's important for us to know, in as much as we are trying to manage our families, and plan. Chirabo likes to say that have children of choice rather than children of, there is something he says, and I would like for him to repeat it for us. Good morning, Chirabo.
Lovely morning to you, lady in red, and of course, Joram Sonko. I hope you guys had the best of your weekend.
Oh, it was amazing. And yours?
Mine was also very lovely. I had some time with family, which I treasure so much, and also some time to share and speak with God.
Okay. Nice one. You normally say children of choice rather than children of?
Children by choice, not chance.
By choice, not chance.
Yes.
But now it turns out that prolonged usage of oral contraceptives can actually lead to a higher risk of cervical cancer.
Well, I want to believe that sometimes people use contraceptives without enough knowledge. You'll find someone just wakes up and they choose any form of contraceptive. Yet you have to go to the medics, they carry out certain tests, and then they'll find what is suitable for you. But also, the other challenge we find with contraceptives are people taking them right. For example, there is I don't know if it's a type of pill or a form of contraceptive.
The morning
Is it called
pill.
morning after? A pill that people are supposed to take. But you find someone, they're taking that pill in a week 4 times. Yes, it's an emergency contraceptive.
There is a huge billboard around Nakao of the Lydia pills, by the way.
Yes, so what happens is, these people mess up, then you take an emergency. It is classified as an emergency. Now, you can't have an emergency 4 times in a week.
You can.
Regarding, regarding such issues. So what happens? These are people who deal, you take the wrong contraceptive, you take it wrongly. Some women in the village, they will take that tab pill, I think that's what to take daily. But today at 1, tomorrow I've forgotten, the other day. So that is where the problem.
There needs to be consistency.
Yes. So if you take the right contraceptive and take it properly as recommended, I want to say you won't have problems. But the challenge here is what I said. How do you have 5 emergencies? Today, you're here, then you take that pill is not supposed, it's for emergency.
Okay,
Then so that's where the problem comes from.
I get that, Chirabo. I understand the part where honestly the morning after pill is supposed to be an emergency pill that you take very once in a while. But Chirabo, I think the continued usage of oral contraceptives that is being talked about here is not even about the morning after pill. Let's face it, that pill is very expensive. So I believe that majority of women, especially women in rural areas, cannot afford it. But the cheapest form of contraceptive that is on the market is the one that is taken every single day, and many women are using that.
Wrongly.
So they are more at risk compared to other methods of family planning. But we'll have that conversation. Cheryl, I would like for you to take us through the news.
Well, very important today. I'll begin with a section of ministers vote on the voters register. Now, a section of members of the cabinet have joined in mobilizing voters across the entire country to embrace the Electoral Commission roadmap, which kicks off today, the 20th of January this very year, with the voters registration exercise for eligible Ugandans. Now, according to the Electoral Commission, this is the only chance left for all persons of 18 years and above to register and participate in the 2026 general elections. Today, the Independent Electoral Commission of Uganda will kick off the voters registration nationwide exercise ahead of the 2026 general elections. To safeguard the support, a section of members of NRM party leaders and ministers have started to mobilize communities about the registration exercise. State Minister for Kampala, Kyofato Gabye, addressed a meeting of NRM leaders from Nakaseke district about the exercise. Kyofato Gabye is eyeing the slot of Nakaseke Central representation in the 12th Parliament. The Land Minister, Judith Nabakoba, stepped forward to popularize the registration exercise. In Chitugum District, the Minister for Relief and Disaster Preparedness, Lillian Abba, mobilized her community. The 20-day exercise starts today till the 10th of February this very year. The Vice President, Major retired Jessica Alupo, mourned in Kakunzinda, Chanamukaka, Masaka district to see off the soul of the late Jane Francis Zarango Musubire. At the time of her death on Tuesday, January 14th, Zarango was the wife of Mr. Vincent Musubire, the Deputy Principal Private Secretary to the Office of the Vice President. Alupo said that since she was appointed to the Office of the Vice President, she found a number of staff who, among others, included Musubire. She said Musubire has guided her on how to handle programs in the Office of the Vice President. She said Musubire does his work in a simple but very accurate way, and on many occasions she has found him talking to junior staff in the office. She urged the staff to continue listening to his advice. Relatives and friends mourning the late Nakasongola MP Margaret Komuhangi appreciated President Museveni's help to return her body. They were gathering at her home in Kitende to mourn her. The Nakasongola MP Margaret Komuhangi recently passed away in India. The body of the former Nakasongola MP Margaret Komuhangi was brought back home from India, where she passed away following multiple abdominal surgeries. Friends, relatives and colleagues, particularly those who worked with her at Parliament, gathered at her Kitende residence to mourn. The mourners appreciated President Museveni for the support returning the body. Legislators described the late as a vibrant leader whose contribution to the country will be missed. The mourners included children she supported through school, held the late for the care and guidance. Seuku Jane Senga and Muzei Frank Banene, close relatives, also spoke fondly of the deceased, expressing their gratitude to President Museveni for his unwavering support throughout her illness. NRM members and constituents in Nakasongola spoke of the transformational projects she championed during her time in office, emphasizing the positive impact she had on their community. Former Entebbe Municipality Member of Parliament Mary Tumusime announced that the funeral service would take place at All Saints Cathedral in Nakasero, with burial scheduled for Tuesday in Ilusi village, Nakasongola, Miyenjere. And finally, from the local scene, residents of Kamocha are grappling with poor garbage disposal, with heaps of waste piling up at different corners of the community. A collection effort has been made to bring change to the area. Solomon Karamaji, a Kamocha resident, asked KCCA to address the area's garbage problem. Karamaji stressed the urgent need for action as poor waste management is harming the community. In response, Asewo Wozo organized a cleanup led by youth from the World Mission Society Church of God. Asewo's slogan, "Save the Earth from A to Z," drives their global environmental efforts, with the Kamocha Clean Up as part of their ongoing mission. There is now renewed hope that with continued collaboration and efforts, the once neglected issue of waste disposal in Kamocha can be solved.
May Margaret Komuhangi's soul rest in eternal peace. But moving on, we go to international news, where 90 Palestinian prisoners have been released as part of the first phase of a long-awaited ceasefire deal between the Israel and Hamas. The Israeli Prison Service has said. Earlier on Sunday, 3 Israeli hostages were released by Hamas to the Red Cross in Gaza City hours after ceasefire began, before being handed to the Israeli military. The women released by Hamas, 31-year-old Ron Steinbrecher, duo British-Israeli Emily Damari, 28, and Romy Gonen, 24, are being treated in a Tel Aviv hospital and are in stable condition. Emily was seen with bandages over 2 missing fingers, hugging her mother in a video call shared with the BBC's Lucy Manning. Hamas says for every hostage released, 30 Palestinian prisoners will be released from Israeli jails. The ceasefire in Gaza came into force after a last-minute delay, but joy faded as Palestinians returned to their destroyed homes. Now moving on to the United States, TikTok is resuming services to its 170 million users in the United States after President-elect Donald Trump said he would issue an executive order to give the app a reprieve when he takes office on Monday, which is today. On Saturday evening, the Chinese-owned app stopped working for American users after a law banning it on national security grounds came into effect. Trump, who had previously backed a ban of the platform, promised on Sunday to delay implementation of the law and allow more time for a deal to be made. TikTok then said that it was in the process of restoring service. Soon after, the app started working again, and a pop-up message to its millions of users thanked Trump by name. In a statement, the company thanked the incoming president for providing the necessary clarity and assurance and said it would work with Trump on a long-term solution that keeps TikTok in the United States. And lastly, more than 230,000 people have been displaced since the beginning of the year amid escalating violence in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, according to the United Nations. The UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, on Friday described the displacement as the most alarming humanitarian crisis in the world. The resource-rich eastern provinces of North and South Kivu, which are home to more than 4.6 million displaced people, according to the agency, have been marred in conflict for 3 decades, with the M23 rebel group becoming one of the most powerful armed groups in recent years. Designated a terrorist movement by the DRC government, M23 has seized large areas of eastern DRC since 2021 and earlier this month took control of the town of Masisi in North Kivu. Earlier this month, Bertrand Bisimwa, the head of the political wing of M23, told Al Jazeera that the group is fighting a defensive war. Well, that does it for our international news. Now, Jerome Paul takes us through the press. We look at the papers from Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania, plus the Uganda Gazette.
Well, starting off with the new vision, government starts building 116 new seed schools, and the full list of beneficiaries, institutions and districts have been written inside today's edition. Now, UK to give 74.2 billion Ugandan shillings to boost refugees. This report is also with the New Vision. The New Vision also writes, giving back, radio opinion listeners stand to win new car. EC boss speaks out on suspended officials. And then there is also over 700 complete patriotism training. A pictorial of student leaders from various universities and other institutions of higher learning who participated in a parade during the passing out ceremony for 750 learners who had completed 2 weeks of patriotism training at Nkumba University. And then profit-making public entities have been revealed in today's New Vision. Now, the Daily Monitor writes, 2026 kicks off. Elections. Political parties say that the time allocated by the Electoral Commission for Ugandans to register and update their voter details for the 2026 polls is not enough. But the EC defends the set time frame. Now, in between the lines, what to know about the voter registers update, the stakeholders rally citizens to register, then districts ready for the exercise as security agencies are also on high alert. Now, in the other details, women thrive in border business. Find that and more in today's Daily Monitor. Now, healthy living. Is it possible to create a male contraceptive? The question is there. Now, thugs wreak havoc in Mukono amid power outages. Then in matters digital plates, government is set to lose billions in unpaid traffic fines. Details to proceed in the Daily Monitor. Now, how Mpox ruined medic, his practice and family. Find more in the news today. Also, new details emerge on the 300 billion Ugandan shillings expired ARVs and kits. And then more profiles of Makerere University PhD graduates. More of that is in the Daily Monitor. To Kenya now, the Daily Nation writes, Uhuru factor in Matiang'i 2027 bid. The Jubilee Party plans to enter into a coalition against Ruto, says or states the Daily Nation. Now, navigating Trump Season 2, Africa experts draw their predictions as woman's sudden blindness sparks gospel revelation. And then also, we are in crisis, head teachers say, on delayed cash to schools. Secret card, former Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i's presidential ambitions continue to gain traction, with the allies of Uhuru Kenyatta saying that the former president plans to back him to dethrone President William Ruto. A leading figure in Uhuru's party yesterday said, as things stand, Matiang'i is the Jubilee Party candidate for presidency. It is something that you can mention, that you can find in the Daily Nation. Now, lastly, from our press review is the Citizen newspaper, why fintech leads the way in African startups funding. And then these fintech startups continue to attract the lion's share of venture capital funding in Africa in 2024, highlighting their significant impact on the continent's digital economy. You can see there's a figure being given here, which is $2.2 billion amount that startups across the continent raised in equity, debt and grants, with fintech capturing the largest portion of this very funding. Now, according to the Big Deal, fintech's share increased from 42% in 2023 to 47% in 2024, marking its highest share since 2021. Now, in matters business transactions, the East African Community cross-border transactions hit record of $2 billion. Now, Chadema leadership contest, the Chadema leadership contest reaches critical juncture, writes the Citizen, and also the Chama cha Mapinduzi settles for Samia and Mwinyi for the 2025 polls. More of that is with the Citizen. Also, TCRA warns broadcasters over content regulation breaches. And that does it for what is in our press review this morning.
Jerome Paul, what do we have in the Uganda Gazette? We will give you more details regarding what we have today in the Uganda Gazette, but it's with sad sorrow that we remember the soul of the demised Member of Parliament for Nakasongola, Margaret Komhanji. Let's first look at the Gazette and then we'll talk more about the MP.
And well, of course, looking back at what the Gazette did write as of Friday last week, more of that, what you can find in the Commissioners for Oath Advocates Act Commission, to whom this presents may come greetings. This is according to a notice from the Chief Registrar, Sarah Langa CU, who says, may it be known that on 2nd January 2008, Namtebi Alzik Motebi, an advocate of the High Court, has been appointed to be a commissioner for oath under the above-mentioned act for so long as she continues to practice as such advocate and the commission is not revoked. Given under the hand and the seal of the court, this is the 27th of a day of November 2024. Now, with the same Gazette, you will also find details about Akeitasia Aklin, an advocate of the High Court who has been appointed to be commissioner for oath under the above-mentioned act for so long as she continues to practice as such advocate and the commission is not revoked. Now, this particular one has a signature of Alfonso Chigamoy Owini Dolo, the Chief Justice. Now, the other contents include the Commissioner for Oath Advocates Act, the Mining and Minerals Act, the Education Pre-Primary, Primary and Post-Primary Act, the Marriage Act notices, the Advocates Act notices, the Companies Act notices, the Insolvency Act notices, the Copyright and Neighboring Rights Regulation notices, the Non-Government Organizations Act notice, the National Payment Systems Act notice, the Uganda Federation of Movie Industry notice, the Local Government Rating Act notice, the Biofuels Act notice, the Police Control of Private Security Organization Regulations notice, the Electricity Act notice, and the Trademarks Act registration of application advertisements.
Thank you, Jerome Paul. Now, it's with sadness that we learnt about the demise of the Member of Parliament for Nakasongola District, Margaret Komhanji, who died in India on the 16th of January 2025 after a series of abdominal surgeries. Now, during her time in Parliament, Komhanji has been active on women's issues. She fought for better enforcement of laws prohibiting female genital mutilation, both in Uganda and the surrounding region. Komhanji also worked in a parliamentary committee to pass a law that encourages Ugandans to adopt orphaned or needy children. She spoke out against a string of murders on women and girls in Entebbe, many killed for ritual or witchcraft purposes. And between 2017 and 2018, she spoke about child marriages, and child marriages in her district of Nakasongola decreased by 20% due in part to increases in funding for daycares, nursery schools, and vocational training. Such a woman of valor, the country has really lost so much. May her soul rest in eternal peace. Now we'll take a short break and we'll leave you with Exodus and Levickson.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
We are one family, we are one harmony.
By Ugandan content creators, which brings me to the other point of conversation. Ugandans, what are you creating on these sites? You know, there are people making money on social media sites, but when I went through the content that many people are creating, honestly, I'm sad. I'm sad because we are not grasping this opportunity to create content that can actually bring in money. Now, there are a few content creators in the country that are doing quite a good job, but honestly, majority are doing a pathetic work. I think we spend so much time in gossip. We spend so much time talking about things that are not really developmental. I'll give you an example. When you go back to China, TikTok is used actually for developmental purposes like building apps and talking about developmental issues rather than the things I found on the other side of Ugandan TikTok. But anyway, we are into a new week. America has a new president and hostages from Gaza are being released. So there is good news across the world. But coming back home, I'd like to know what my colleagues have been paying attention to and what has stood out for them over the weekend. And right next to me is Jerome Paul Sonko. Good morning.
Good morning, Olive.
How are you?
I am well. You've mentioned something about the TikTok content that Ugandans produce. And there's an argument that many times Ugandan receivers or the people who consume this content prefer that content to the majority, according to many of these content creators. If you ever get a chance to listen to their arguments on the type of content they release, they will tell you this is what Ugandans want to listen to, this is what Ugandans want to watch, and that's what pushes us to continue doing the content. But again, I like your argument because at times it is not sustainable content in terms of money creating ventures, because when you look at the kind of deals that many of the TikTokers are gathering or content creators in the country, only those that are producing meaningful content are receiving bigger deals or have been able to receive those deals for many years down the road. especially after TikTok coming in. But for those that produce abusive content, you realize even the kind of commodities they represent at times, and even the deals that they represent or that they sign do not even last for long because of the kind of content that they kind of, make and produce.
Also, I think, Jerome, that there is a bit of laziness because yesterday, like I shared earlier, I took time to go through the content that is made by the Ugandans who think that that's the content that works for us. And in my observation, it turns out that there is laziness. Everyone is talking about the same thing. Everyone is gossiping about the same thing.
In fact,
and at the
most
end
of our
day,
content is filled up with gossip.
Exactly. And it's not helping.
Of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Welcome to Good Morning Uganda, your go-to morning show to kickstart your day with all the latest updates.
Let's dive deep into issues that matter most to you.
In a world of stories waiting to be told, the headlines are your guide. Navigate the currents of news and knowledge with our daily updates of newspapers. Stay informed, stay empowered.
From the roar of the crowd to the thunder of victory, witness the drama unfold with our sports updates. Whether on the field or in the stands, join us as we celebrate the spirit of champions.
Rise with Good Morning Uganda, weekdays from 6:30 a.m.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, it's time for our newsreel. Thank you so much for sticking with us here on Good Morning Uganda. My name is Olive Monica Najuma. Right beside me is Jerome Paul Sonko. In Studio B, Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono will be joining us. Now, we've had conversations regarding to ban or not to ban Mivumba clothes in Uganda. One wonders what is the history of Mivumba in Uganda, but more importantly, is the ban or the directive by the president to ban Mivumba importation into the country feasible? Because let's look at it. When you look at the crop, which is cotton that is used to manufacture clothing, it's been wobbly for a couple of years now. It's no longer the major export from the country, and also when we got down to it, 90% of the exports from cotton 90% of cotton is exported outside the country. So one wonders, if we are exporting a big chunk of cotton out of the country, what would the textile industry in Uganda remain with, and would it be enough to serve over 45 million Ugandans? Then also we look at other issues and aspects like pricing, where Ugandans say that in as much as they would like to buy and build Uganda, products like clothes are really expensive currently in the country. Now, when you look at mivumba that is imported into the country, one can buy a piece of cloth depending on how much they have. And I'm talking about starting from, let's say, 1,000 shillings, there is an item you can buy from anyone that is selling a mavumba clothing. And also there is, it's creating lots of jobs for many Ugandans. Visit St. Valley Kudembe Market and other markets and you will see where I am coming from. But still, this is a point of conversation because there is the argument that we need to build our textile industry, and we have to start by limiting how much mivumba or old clothing that we import into the country. And I'll go to Chirabo Robert first of all. Robert, there is this, basically we have this conversation here, and we've had it before. And we've heard from the president, his argument. Then we've heard from the opposers of the ban as well. But first of all, help us understand, what is the history of this ban?
Well, people who have lived long will tell you that initially, when our population was still a bit of not very big in number as it is today, that second-hand clothes were not something that people would wear. You would go to the shop and buy something new. But second-hand clothing first came in here as donations in this country when we had the Church Missionary Society and other groups. Now, they came in form of bells. I don't know if I talk about bells, many Ugandans will understand. But Endibota. I don't know if Oliver and Sonko, you know Endibota.
Of course.
Now, these came in bells as donations that our brothers, our sisters who are coming to preach the gospel, among things they would bring were these second-hand clothes. Now, after that, people picked interest and saw that, by the way, this is something that can make money. Now, it first began by those who were sending for donation, the receivers selling what they were supposed to donate. Now, others noticed that, no, we can go to countries like, because these donations were coming from countries like Canada and the US. Now, later, also China came in. Now, it became a business. And that's how we had second-hand clothes peak form in this country, to the extent that as we speak of today, according to statistics, 690,000 Ugandans are employed in the business of second-hand clothes. And that's a very big number. If you talk, and in East Africa, 4.2 million people are employed in second-hand clothes and footwear. Now, when you talk about the ban, this is not something for Uganda alone. We must recall and remember very well that the ban on second-hand clothes and footwear imports was adopted in 2016 by the East African heads of state at the 17th Ordinary Summit. This is when the ban kicked off. Now, these people had a dream or had planned that if this ban is effective, its objective was to promote or develop the local textile and leather industry. And they had believed that the ban would be implemented between 2017 and 2018, aimed at phasing out these importations through, this is what they believed in, through gradual tariff increase. Now, the problem for Uganda's case was due to pressure from the local traders and the US diplomatic pressure. However, in 2024, we saw His Excellency again come up with this. But, Olive, like you said, many people have advised that this is not a go venture into area. For example, Makerere University think tank, known as the Economic Policy Research Center, EPRC, cautioned that this ban will lead to loss of revenue that we get from imports, but also lead to job loss and increased importation of new cheaper and low quality clothes from Asian countries as China. So it has side effects. But also when you look at statistics, to me this is why I interested myself more, seeing that East Africa imported 12.5% of the world's second-hand clothes, valued at $274 million, and this grew up to 2016 when Rwanda reduced her imports by 35%. Now Uganda imports of second-hand clothes have risen or have grown to 43% from US dollars, that is 61 million, to 106 million between 2013 and 2022 from US, Canada, and China. Now, statistics also show us that Uganda alone in sales of second-hand clothes grew from 388,022 to 698,781 people between 2011 and 2021. So here you get to see that the figures are speaking growth, and also the figures are speaking high numbers of people being employed in this sector.
Interesting. Now, the global growth of the textile industry is estimated to be at $1.4 trillion by 2028. But according to Uganda Manufacturers Association, only 250,000 smallholder farmers are involved in the growth, of cotton in Uganda. Now, coming to you, Jerome, do you think that how is this affecting the growth of the textile industry in the country?
It is. And why is it affecting? As of May last year, 52%, according to URA data, was showing that 52% of imported clothing is second-hand, meaning it's only 48% of that where we are only having first-hand clothing. Again, representing a portion of high dependence on second-hand clothing as a country.
And even the first-hand, is it made in Uganda or it's also imported?
It is shared. Shared within, because the one that is imported directly is way expensive than what is made within the country. And going back to your question, though, on the side of the farmers and how this is affecting the growth of our textile industry, you realize that with this, not so many of the farmers here in Uganda have had or were engaging in farming as a commercial bit of it. And this is where you're seeing government initiatives of seeing people getting into the commercial. Most of our farmers in Uganda have been majorly interested in subsistence growing of, subsistence agriculture. Someone is keeping, let's say, even those who are engaging in rearing animals, they're rearing it because maybe it's a family kind of thing, family history, or it is part of their culture. Not so many of them were entirely rearing these animals for a source of income. Some just have them as pride, giving them out on, let's say, family gatherings and the like. And then the others who are engaging in, growing of food crops. Also, many of these families have always been growing them on a subsistence form and also having them as just a source of food. So when you look at the figures of the textile, not so many Ugandans as of today are engaged in cotton, and it goes back to, let's say, the post-independence era. Because when you do remember, during our, pre-independence era, the time of the, the colonial times, coffee and cotton, vanilla, were the major cash crops within the country. And if history serves us right, it was not only Uganda, but also the East African community, because these were like the most profitable cash crops.
That's right. That's why we have coffee and cotton and our coat of arms.
Exactly. So you could easily see back then that there was huge interest in these cash crops. And many people who are engaging in cotton were earning a lot out of it. But as times changed, many people started changing away from, growing cotton for reasons best known to some, And others also attach them to political reasons as to why they, because others were saying the policymakers were not very supportive on their side. And then the issue of pricing, because the reason as to why many farmers have been bowing out of some bit of the cash crop growing is the bit of the pricing. That last year we had an issue with sugarcane growers, even this year. And then we also had issues with tea growers, because now tea growers are also running away from the trade. Why? It is no longer profitable. You're growing too much. You have a huge estate, but you're not earning out of it. Now it is the same incident here with cotton, that people are growing cotton, those who are growing cotton felt like they're no longer earning too much out of it. Or it may not even be too much, but they were not earning. So they started shunning away from it, putting us in this picture of having very few people within the growing of cotton, meaning you're going to have, it is definitely going to impact the pricing on the market. If you have very few cotton growers, and then the quality as well affects the market. At the end of the day, this is where we are seeing the kind of textile, or let's say textile prices, the textile industry and the pricing with it within the Ugandan market becoming more expensive and very few Ugandans can afford most of the shirts, because when you look at the shirts, for example, that are made here in Uganda, you realize many of them go for a minimum of around 80,000 or 100,000. Now for an ordinary Ugandan, 80,000 to buy one shirt. That is too much, I should say, because many people are surviving on $1 per day.
Yeah.
And if you're to look at someone buying a shirt that goes for close to $25 or 20, I mean, that is a 2-day, that is a 2 weeks kind of budget that someone has to first of all get
2 weeks,
into.
I think you're being very generous. I know shops at Garden City that sell one shirt at 350,000,
and many of these,
like
and many of them are also imported, but first hand in the same space.
Wow, interesting. Now, cotton is a single season crop, so many farmers find themselves discouraged, first of all by that, but also like Jerome Paul put it, the fluctuating prices. You never know when they would go high or go low. Now, Chirabo, coming back to you, when we look at the issue of a single season crop and pricing, do you think that maybe the market demands of our economies of scale regarding cotton production and across the export industry as it is, do you think it is affecting the farmers? And do you think that there is something that can be done to encourage more smallholder farmers to grow cotton?
I think the big problem here is not the farmer. Because I want to tell you, if there is market, a farmer will go beyond and have the produce you want. Talk about there is a time when coffee had issues. Now today, how many people are going into coffee growing? Because indeed there have been deliberate intentions and effort into that crop. But now cotton has a very big challenge. The biggest is market, because products produced here, one, are very expensive. Two, the industries that are adding value. Remember why we had these with what we called cash crops, because we were growing for industries somewhere else, isn't it? We would grow coffee. Ugandans were not coffee takers. We don't drink coffee here in Uganda. Even we are seeing today government has efforts to domesticate consumption of coffee. Billions are here put to teach people how to drink coffee. Talk about tea. We were growing tea for other people. Talk about tobacco, much as we were taking taba, but still for a white man. Cotton for a white man. These were brought by the colonial masters for us to grow the raw materials for their industries. Now, because we did not venture in creating industries that add value, today if someone asks you how many industries do you know that use Ugandan cotton and bring a final product away from Nitil, I think I know only fine spinners in Bogorobi here. where they use Ugandan cotton from A to the end result. But even them, they will tell you they produce for export. I think they have just started on the local market. But previously, whatever they were producing was for export. Now, if a farmer doesn't have market for what they are producing, believe you me, they will have those challenges. But if there is a market, now, what is killing market is because we have a substitute. That why would I go to fine spinners if I want a white shirt like His Excellency puts on, and they are telling me it is 100,000. One piece like this, 100,000. Now, in 100,000, I'll go and get maybe shirts of 30 that are even very different and unique. They belong to some white man, maybe Bill Gates, I don't know, Warren Buffett, or this guy of TikTok, and I'm wearing that quality.
Who is the guy of TikTok?
Pure quality with good designs. I look, why would I give? So the challenge is the growers don't have that market because the demand, local demand for cotton is not there. Our industries are not there, but also the substitute that our heads of state thought we can ban and promote. But on the contrary, we have to be very gradual if we are to do this, because the local markets employ more than what the industries are employing. The local markets employ more than what our industries can do. Then second, what we produce here is very expensive compared to the substitute, because for you need to balance the boat. If the substitute should be maybe more expensive, that's why they said let's introduce tariffs on these clothes. But other than that, you cannot phase out second-hand clothes when the local industries are very few, what they are producing is very expensive, they are employing less people. There it is very hard. It's a mountain to climb unless we are sure that we've grown our industries to some level, they can meet the local market. But they can't meet the local market because they are very expensive, and there is a substitute that is cheaper, and I want to say better.
Well, thank you, Robert. Now, I would like to look at the economic impact. You did touch on it a bit, but Jerome, that is where I would like for you to rejoin the conversation. And let's look at the role of mivumba, or second-hand clothing. What role do they play in Uganda's economy, particularly in terms of employment and trade revenue?
Huge. 52% of clothing that are imported being second-hand represents a huge figure. According to the Uganda Revenue Authority, by the way, Uganda continued to register a steady growth of this importation. And on top of that, the imports of second-hand clothing as of June 2023, now that is the financial year 2022 to 2023, imports of second-hand clothing rose by 74.8 billion Ugandan shillings. Now that is huge money, increasing from 366 by 5 billion, 366.5 billion. That was the increase of the money. So meaning we were not yet even into 74 billion. So that is a huge increment. That is from a period of COVID. No, it is not to the advantage of the local textile market, but of course it is a huge advantage on the level of the taxation.
Yes.
Because of the taxes they get, because this is money coming into the country. However, the only problem again is how much are we taking out, or how much are we gaining from what we take out?
Because now you're looking at taxes,
yes,
but
you're
then
looking
there is
at taxes, but
because
this amount of money is a lot moving out.
Yes.
But the economic bit of it again, Olive, besides the fact that there is a level of employment, many people are employed within this sector of mivumba or second-hand clothing trade and the like. There is an interesting bit about the Ugandan market today. If you're to also look at why is it very difficult for us to ban, the variety that it offers in the name of fashion and style is too good to be true at times, and very difficult to live without. Why am I using those terms? Many of the Ugandans that normally buy the mivumba or second hand, they have a variety.
So there is consumer preferences and social influence.
Exactly. So, and many of our local textile traders, or manufacturers, I should say, have not yet tapped into that bit of, let's produce variety. Today you will go in downtown and you're looking for a specific shoe, but then once you reach downtown and that is the specific shoe you're looking for, the seller will give you other options if at all he doesn't have what you have. And again, you realize that at least it gives you a run for your money. It gives you a little bit of a chance to enjoy a different product, but giving you this, in the same quality or the same category. And this is where it is also difficult a bit, that however much you try to, to prevent the importation, you realize that the Ugandans themselves feel comfortable going in for them, because there are also clothings that are very expensive, second-hand.
Yes, very
but still,
expensive.
Ugandans are willing to pay.
Now, Jerem, I'll give you an example, a personal example. There is a time I used to run a boutique and would sell, let's say, a Calvin Klein dress at, let's say, 500 to 600 Uganda shillings. Now, one day I go into this boutique and I find the same dress at around 200,000. Movumba though. So because I knew how much the new dress costs, 200,000 felt like a drop in the bucket, and I was excited to buy it. And many Ugandans know these designers.
Yes.
You're going to find maybe a Versace dress, and it is original, but you can't afford the actual new Versace dress. Now, when you find it in Muvumba, aren't you going to buy it?
And it has actually become part of us that today you find yourself, putting on your second-hand shoes, second-hand T-shirt or second-hand suit, and you feel comfortable with it. So meaning on the bit of the cultural identity, we even gave it the name Mivumba because we are now part of it. You'll pass by and say, is that a Mivumba? Someone will just park and, buy something because they know how durable these are, and it's something that we really need.
Durability.
Yes, we need to also talk about that. Many of us do have these clothings in our wardrobes, and they've stayed for close to 5 years. And that is one other thing that our local textile industries need to, first of all, find a secret to. That people who buy these second-hand, especially the expensive ones, because those expensive ones are also on the market. Many of them will tell you, I bought this second-hand cloth from, let's say, China or let's say Europe, because these are the countries, these are the continents, Europe, the Americas, where we import most of these goods, Canada. Someone will tell you, I bought this 5 years ago, and he still has the shirt or sweater. And then you look at the Ugandan market where the quality is okay, but then you wonder, why isn't it durable? And this is one of the other things that is making it even very difficult for us to get rid of them.
There are bed sheets that are locally made, and many parents buy these bed sheets for their school-going children. All of us here have been in boarding school before. Have you used some of these bed sheets, and how do they compare to maybe imported bed sheets, let's say from steel, second-hand clothing?
Interestingly, my mother is still dealing in some of these businesses, by the way. And one thing I noticed from her is she prefers going for the second-hand bed sheets. She said that they have better quality than the others. Because when you look at the ones that are made here, she was saying, first of all, they're not too thick, and you know how comfortable Ugandans want to be in their beds. So you can only imagine,
Everyone wants to be comfortable in their
so
bed.
you can only imagine if someone gives you a very light, because most of these bed sheets made here are very light.
One wash or two, and
and then you look at the other bed sheets that are, second hand, for example. Many of them are, good quality. The materials, you look at, how heavy they are, the size, and it's like giving you serious run for your money, and you're like, yeah, at least I'll enjoy my money. So everything about,
cheap, by the way.
And they're not cheap, but at least you're buying it, and it will stay for a very long time, and it's something that our, people within this country or those that are dealing within some of these products are failing at. I remember the issue. I remember during the COVID-19 pandemic, for example, Olive, when we had masks, and you could easily see Ugandans were still not happy with the kind of masks being manufactured within the country. However many of those that were on the market were manufactured here, and we had to adopt to, because it was the situation, we had to wear the masks. But again, you look at the kind of masks, and again you ask, these are small things that we need to be good at. Why are we failing?
So why do you think we are failing? Because it feels like, from my perspective, that we do haphazard work, that we do not care about finesse, we do not care about quality. Why are we failing? Because even if we are contributing little to the textile industry in the country, why is it that even the little that we are churning out is still not to the standard of many people?
Well, one I think is the issue of understanding fashion and style. I think not so many of those that are dealing within this industry do understand how the industry works. And you can easily see some of the fashionistas that we have in the country who have mastered the art of getting the mivumba from downtown in Kampala and then trying to, make it their own creation. These are people who understand how the industry works. And for them, they're able to lure any Ugandan into buying the product at a given price. So I think when you look at where we are failing, is because second-hand clothings and whatever, this is part of the fashion and its style, meaning you have to understand how the markets work abroad. That if these are the products that people are willing to go for, because the reason as why we're seeing many of the European, fashion and style industry growing year in, year out, it is because the textile industry there understands the market trends. That there is a year or a season where you would see clothings or outfits of the World War era coming back today, and people are buying them at a very huge price.
When they come back, there is something different. I'll give you an example. At the recent Golden Globe Awards, Zendaya wore a dress, but it was a recreation of something that some artist had worn back in the 70s, I think, or 60s. So when they bring it back, it is still spruced up and much better. Please join the conversation through WhatsApp number 0709-602-592. Share your views share your views on whether or not mivumba should be banned from Uganda, and give us good reasons for that. Share your views and also your personal experience. Now, I have a comment coming through from Chigwe Livingston of Ndeje Division, and he says, "Thank you, brethren, for the show. You cannot ban second-hand clothes without cotton production. We can't make clothes in Uganda, so banning second-hand clothes in Uganda is a false dream." Thank you. That is Chigwe Livingston. And then Omgaga Saurembo in Naweru MP at Dako Nansana Municipality, he says second-hand clothing trade bakaba maziga endibota za bei nene nyo. Now, Robert, this is where, from Omgaga Saurembo's comment, this is where I would like for you to come in. Let's talk about government policies and regulations. He says that the price of bells is quite high, but also I've had complaints regarding taxation of bells. Now, Jerome earlier shared the amounts of money that we collect from the importation of second-hand clothing into the country. But Chirabo, in your perspective, what would you say are the policies that the Ugandan government has implemented to regulate the importation and also the sale of mivumba?
Usually what governments do all over the world, and what our government is doing, that when they want local industries to grow, they increase tariffs or taxation of that particular commodity that is being imported into the country. And this is what our government is doing, and this is what they have agreed upon in 2016 as heads of states, that let's phase out. But the phase out is going to be gradual. That as you make these expensive for someone to be attracted to buy what you're producing home because it is cheaper. So they have an alternative that if I'm going to buy a gin from Muvumba and it's going to be about 70,000, and maybe I can have one locally made home at 50,000, one would say this is cheaper. So that is why we are seeing that the government is increasing tax or tariffs on those bells, the Mivumba. It is deliberate so that the local industries can grow. But now, this is where the problem comes from, Monica. That much as you're increasing tax on the importation of these bells, you're not addressing the challenge of cost of production back home that is making these locally made clothings expensive. What are these challenges? For example, power, electricity. That these local industries are spending so much on electricity, much as we have various tariffs for them. And I'm happy when government came out and said the contract of Umeme would come to an end. Reason being, it wasn't a good deal. Those that negotiated that deal didn't do us justice. It was making electricity expensive, therefore, for our industries, because when you're going in production, this is a business. An investor comes to Uganda to make money, not to offer Ugandans jobs. No, their sole purpose is to make money. An investor is here to make money. If they're not making money, they will wind up. It's not a charity organization. So when an investor comes in a country and the power is high, the goods produced will have that cost implication. Because what I incur, finally it is you, the buyer, to pay. Now, even if you increase tariffs and these bills are expensive, yet what you're producing home is still expensive. Let's look at transportation. One would tell you, if you are fine spinners, maybe the road network from where we get the cotton, that price, we have to put it on the final consumer. Look at machinery. Taxation on machinery. If I'm going to import some machine, I don't know, or that irons these clothes and it's very expensive, it all goes back. So government has those policies that if you want to phase out something to give room for your domestic industry to grow in that particular area, yes, you increase taxation. But if you do not still address these factors I've mentioned about, that will still make what is being produced here expensive, at the end of the day, I think you may not see a breakthrough.
Thank you so much, Robert. Now, I'll end with a comment from Segane from Mukono. He says, let the Mivumba be banned from our country. Our local industry will then be able to compete from within the country. Thank you so much for your views. Thank you so much for being a part of Good Morning Uganda. We are going to take a short break, and Jerome Paul Sonko will be back with Good Morning Uganda business updates. Stick around.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Welcome to Good Morning Uganda, your go-to morning show to kickstart your day with all the latest updates.
Let's dive deep into issues that matter most to you.
In a world of stories waiting to be told, the headlines are your guide. Navigate the currents of news and knowledge with our daily updates of newspapers. Stay informed, stay empowered.
From the roar of the crowd to the thunder of victory, witness the drama unfold with our sports updates. Whether on the field or in the stands, join us as we celebrate the spirit of champions.
Rise with Good Morning Uganda, weekdays from 6:30 a.m.
protection to secure your money.
Protecting your money is as important as earning it. It is for this reason that the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda, DPF, was established by the government of Uganda to provide deposit protection to customers of regulated financial institutions. In the unlikely event that your commercial bank, credit institution or microfinance deposit-taking institution fails, the DPF will pay you up to 10 million Uganda shillings. Keep your personal information such as national identification number, mobile phone or an alternative bank account updated with your banker. Terms and conditions apply. For more information, contact DPF at Aha Towers, Plot 7 Lodell Road, Kampala. Call 0312-206-400 or visit our website at www.dpf.or.ug.
We are the DPF. We protect your money. Protection Fund of Uganda.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
And here we are, and it's time for business. A very good morning. Thank you very much for sticking around to Good Morning Uganda. The 20th of January 2025 is here, and it's business time. Now, at least one medium or large-scale farm is being proposed for establishment in each of the 4 traditional regions of Uganda. This is according to the recently appointed Chancellor of Makerere University, Dr. Crispus Chionga, who says that such farms will act as partners in outreaches for students to study and also work there. Now, this was emphasized shortly after the graduation of 13,000 professionals, including those whose potential he wants to see beyond university. Where do they go beyond just wearing these gowns on graduation day? Now, in the wake of increasing scarcity of jobs, how can they be helped to better their lives and the progress of the country? The challenge that the Chancellor of Makerere University, Dr. Crispus Chionga, did underscore. Now, he did reveal that he has an idea that he floated during the 75th graduation of Makerere University. The emphasis is on agriculture and to bring on board all professionals, those specialized in specific disciplines, including agriculture at all levels of education in Uganda and beyond. This kind of collaboration, Dr. Chionga wants it nationalized. The motive is to impart agriculture knowledge into students irrespective of their course disciplines. This is the reason why he is proposing establishment of regional farms in Uganda. Chionga himself, a farmer, wants to see more research in agriculture. The more reasons he intends to engage PhD finalists. In the just concluded 75th Makerere University graduation, a total of 13,660 students were awarded, including agriculturists, and these range from PhD through masters, bachelors, and some on diplomas. And then also that also looking back into how far the agriculture sector is growing, you will come to realize that many of those that are engaged in the agriculture sector, a few of them have got the necessary documentations to run into commercialization of agriculture, which is quite important to see that the next level of the graduates, especially those within the agriculture-related fields, get to enhance more of what they've studied, and then also see the enhancement of the agriculture sector in general. Now, away from Uganda's agriculture sector, we now turn our focus onto the continent, because the African farms are worrying over the state of cyber safeguards. At least 4 in 10 companies in Africa lack confidence in their government's preparedness to respond to a major cybersecurity incident, a higher proportion than other regions globally. Now, and the findings may highlight poor national investments in cybersecurity across the African continent. This means that a large number of organizations on the continent worry that in case there should be a major cyber attack, they may suffer serious economic losses and damage as their governments don't have sufficient safeguards in place to mitigate the impacts. Now, the latest global cybersecurity outlook published by the World Economic Forum this week reveals that while several companies lack confidence in national cyber security preparedness, organizations in Africa are generally more worried. Now, based on a survey done by the global think tank, 36% of African companies lack confidence on their country's preparedness to handle cyber incidents, compared to just 15% in Europe and North America and 0% in the Oceania region. Now, only 9% of firms in Africa are very confident in their government cybersecurity preparedness, while the proportion rises to 13%, 17% and 25% in Europe, North America and Oceania, respectively. Now, experts in the industry say that they are not surprised by these findings, as many African countries are yet to give priority to cybersecurity, despite growing evidence that cyber attacks are increasing in number and sophistication. Now, according to the co-CEO of Zendata Cybersecurity, revealed that there is no surprise by the difference in the lack of confidence in Africa versus Europe and North America, because there are distinct differences in terms of cyber security investments and human resources. That is Isabella Mayer. Now, in North America and Europe, the investment towards different enforcement of cybersecurity regulations, public-private partnerships started over 20 years ago. Now, in Africa, there is barely any comprehensive regulation of cybersecurity. And Africa's less cybersecurity professionals. Africa also has less infrastructure. And of course, in the same regard, we do have less operational centers. So it only makes sense that organizations should be worried about cybersecurity readiness. Now, notably, small organizations have reported struggles with cyber resilience more than large ones. And in Africa, the vast majority of companies are small in terms of turnover, employee count, and profit. Now, globally, the number of small organizations reporting insufficient cyber resilience, according to the WEF survey, has risen from 5% in 2025 to 35% this year, while large firms have improved, with those still struggling reducing to 7% from 13%. Now, the difficulties building cyber resilience have been compounded by a number of factors, including escalating geopolitical tensions, the rapid adoption of new technologies, and increased sophistication of attackers. Geopolitical tensions, on the other hand, linked to the rise of cyber espionage, the illegal gathering of sensitive information from a company, individual, government for use to an opponent's political or economic advantage, have become a real headache for companies globally. And when you look at that, about 60% of companies globally say geopolitical tensions have affected their cybersecurity strategies, and over a third of CEOs say it has heightened the risk of cyber espionage. Now, Kenya has recently been a victim of major cyber attack fueled by geopolitical tensions, specifically the war in Sudan and Nairobi's involvements in attempts and mediation between the warring parties. Now, in July 2023, Kenya's e-citizen platform, an online portal for accessing over 5,000 group of hackers known as Anonymous Sudan, halting service delivery for over 24 hours. And that attack had come just a month after Sudanese junta leader rejected the appointment of Kenyan President William Ruto by the regional bloc, that is IGAD, the International Governmental Authority of Development, to lead mediation between the warring forces in the country. Now, the bigger question remains, is Uganda ready to mitigate any cyber threat? Because it does not put us in the best position. And with the most recent haste of the central bank, it kind of course, kind of puts us in a bad place. And ensuring the only way to safeguard this particular issue is to ensure that we build enough infrastructure and also create the necessary efforts that will see us deal with any cyber attack in the upcoming years. Well, that does it for business this Monday, the 20th of January, and we top it up with the forex market as of close of business Saturday. The US dollar opened buying at 3,600 3,684.73 while selling for 3,694.73. By midday, the dollar was buying at 3,682.23 while selling at 3,692.23. Closing time then, the US dollar was buying at 3,681.23 while selling at 3,691.23 by closing time over the weekend. And the Great Britain pound was buying at 4,495.14 while selling at 4,507.36. The euro was buying at 3,787.98 while selling at 3,798.27. The Kenyan shilling against the Ugandan shilling, buying was 28.42 while selling was 28.50 shillings. The Tanzanian shilling was buying at 1.45 Ugandan shillings while selling at 1.46 Ugandan shillings, and the South African rand was buying at 195.96 Ugandan shillings while selling at 196.49 Ugandan shillings. Well, of course, these updates do come 3 times daily, or updated 3 times daily, courtesy of the Central Bank. And I'll be back tomorrow with the latest from the world of business. After this, we do have the agenda conversations this morning. More is yet to come. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
I'll call you every day, yeah, yo, baby, don't know.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks, Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000 or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21# and select daily or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Juko. Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Maskari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
It's our mission to secure your money.
protecting your money is as important as earning it. It is for this reason that the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda, DPF, was established by the government of Uganda to provide deposit protection to customers of regulated financial institutions. In the unlikely event that your commercial bank, credit institution or microfinance deposit-taking institution fails, the DPF will pay you up to 10 million Uganda shillings. Keep your personal information such as national identification number, mobile phone or an alternative bank account updated with your banker. Terms and conditions apply. For more information, contact DPF at Aha Towers, Plot 7 Lodell Road, Kampala. Call 0312 206 400 or visit our website at www.dpf.or.ug.
Welcome to Good Morning Uganda, your go-to morning show to kickstart your day with all the latest updates.
Let's dive deep into issues that matter most to you.
In a world of stories waiting to be told, the headlines are your guide. Navigate the currents of news and knowledge with our daily updates of newspapers. Stay informed, stay empowered.
From the roar of the crowd to the thunder of victory, witness the drama unfold with our sports updates. Whether on the field or in the stands, join us as we celebrate the spirit of champions.
Rise with Good Morning Uganda, weekdays from 6:30 a.m.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso. Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala. We have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
So the year is 2025 and this year we get to talk everything and anything politics. We get to talk anything and everything election. Yes, the general elections will be happening at the beginning of next year, 2026. But now this is the preparation before the main dance being the election. Now, the big question here is, are you a registered voter? Do you know your status as a voter? Do you even understand your civic role as a Ugandan national when it comes to the elections of the country? We will be electing our leaders from the grassroots up until to the highest office in the land, which is the presidency. And the question is, you've made the noise on social media, you have had different discourses on different platforms, but are you a registered voter? I'm asking this question because many of us, especially those who like to call themselves the elite, do not vote. You are leaving that most important role for a citizen in the hands of sometimes people that are not well informed, yet I will find you on X and other platforms making all these very significant conversations, but when it comes to it, you do not vote. So why don't we get into this conversation and see where you stand? The Electoral Commission has started the voter update registration and it is beginning today. So I am going to have a conversation with the deputy spokesperson at the Uganda Electoral Commission, and that is Mr. Paul Bukenya. You're welcome.
Well, thanks for inviting me, having me on the show, and good morning, our dear viewers. Always good to be on UBC, talking about democracy, elections, governance, and exercising our rights as citizens. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for coming through.
Yeah.
And my name is Olive Monica Najuma, your host. So let's get into the conversation now. Mr. Kenya, first of all, happy to see you.
Good to see you too.
Secondly, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you and Happy New Year to our viewers. And it's a packed year in terms of elections and exercising that right to elect our leaders.
Okay, now let's get into it. First of all, tell us about the current status of the voter register updates by the Electoral Commission.
Well, you mentioned that you talked about elections, and I want to say that the first elections are actually taking place this year. So that's why we talk about 2025, 2026 general elections. The first elections will involve electing special interest groups, leaders who progress from the village level up to the national level. You can start as a youth leader and end up in parliament. So the first elections are actually taking place this year in June. And for that reason, we are we are now entering into a phase where we are finalizing key enablers, you know, those essentials that need to be in place for us to have the elections. And of course, at the center of it all is the voters register. So what is happening starting today for the next 21, actually there's even a Sunday, so it's almost 22 days, is to update the National Voters Register. And in doing this, we are going to be opening up what we call a window, because the register has been continuously updated. From the last election up to now, the register has had several qualifying citizens coming on board. But what we do before we conduct the general elections, we open up a window where we enable persons who have obtained 18 years of age and above, and they had never registered before for so many reasons. Either you've just turned 18, or you were already 18 and above, you were 30, you were 40, and you never had interest in elections. During this time, those citizens who are eligible, who qualify under the law, can come on board and they would be registered. Then, of course, those who want to transfer their voting locations can apply to do so, because a number of things have happened. Someone has moved to a new area, or you're a student, you registered at the university or the college, and now you've moved back into a place where you want to stay, or you've moved back to where you originate from. So the application for transfer of voting details can take place during this time. In the case of those who are already registered, but they want to move to a new area. And then, of course, the other part is for you to confirm your particulars. Am I really a registered voter? If you're registered and you confirm and everything is okay, then that's fine. But it could also be that in the register there could be an item, or rather some particular that's not correct. You can also request for that to be corrected during this time. Then, of course, lastly, we have learners who have been registered continuously by the National Identification and Registration Authority. They were registered as citizens, but they were not of voting age, because, you know, citizenship starts at 0 years, so you can be registered even as a citizen at 1 year. But now they've obtained 18 years, so they have NIN numbers, and actually some of them even have IDs, but they're not on the register. So, and you need to be on the register in order to vote. So this window, this update enables such persons to come to us and say, look, I was registered as a young boy, young man, young woman. I was 15, now I've obtained 18. I want to be assigned a polling station. These are my particulars. So we will then assign them polling stations so that they come onto the register as well. Then there are those Ugandans who have registered as citizens, they've been verified, they've gotten a national ID, but when they were filling out those forms with NIRA, they never indicated where they want to vote from, because all they needed was a national ID, a NIN to process a passport and go abroad. And now we are telling them, look, you didn't indicate where you want to vote from. You can come to us and tell us I'm a registered, verified citizen, and I want to be assigned a polling station. So basically, that's what we'll be doing during this time, and that's why we call it update. We already have a register, but we update it, make it current, and bring on board qualifying persons. And that's what we're going to be doing over the next 22 days. And at the same time, of course, we will extract, as we update, we will extract the register for the youth. We know who the youth are. People, for purposes of youth council elections, which will take place starting this year in June. So we will compile a register for youth from what we have. And those who present themselves to us, we will finally have a register for youth. In terms of our elections in Uganda, youth are those people who are 29, between 18 years of age and 29 years of age for purposes of youth elections. We'll extract that register. Then we'll also do a register for older persons, persons who have obtained the age of 18. Then also do a register for persons with disabilities. Those are the special interest groups I was talking about. Yes. The elections start in June. So update is important. It marks the final preparation, putting together of a register, which we'll use in elections, starting with political parties that have primary elections around May this year. And then, of course, special interest groups elections in June, through July, through September, when we nominate candidates for local government, presidential candidates in November, parliamentary, and then campaigns. And by this time next year, we'll have had the presidential and general parliamentary elections done.
Yes. Now, speaking of the youth still, you said the update is going to take place for 22 days.
22 days, yeah.
Now, there are youth turning 18, let's say, in October, in November.
Yeah.
What do we do for those? Because by next year, they will be eligible voters.
That's where we have, we've had a really heated conversation. Because by law, we're supposed to compile a register and start using it. So by law, we close, we cut off. So starting on the 10th of February this year, we're going to cut off the registration of voters. And that, of course, doesn't sound good.
I don't like
straight
the
from
sound
our
of
homes.
that.
So a person who turns 18 on 11th February will not have registered as a voter, because by law they will not have been 18 as at the time of registration. Now, you must be 18 years and above in order to be registered as a voter in Uganda, and that's by law.
And you must be 18
at
by
the time of
the
registration
is taking place.
And there's been a lot of heated conversations about that. Why don't we register until, and it's affecting me even in my family, because I have a girl who's saying, now I'll be turning 18 and you're cutting off, and I say, I'm sorry,
also
but
asking for some people living in my home because they want to vote, but their birthdays are coming up in June, in November, and I believe that that is going to leave out many children born in 2007 that will be getting older past 11th
It does,
February.
It does, but we have an, you know, the Electoral Commission doesn't just choose a date and say we are going to stop here.
Okay.
We would probably have loved to go on, because our job is to, the law is very clear. It says we should facilitate citizens to participate in elections, and it is their right. But at the same time as we do that, we know that we have to organize elections in accordance with the timelines that are laid down in the law. And we always say that our electoral system is complex in Uganda, and for that reason, compiling the register happens quite a bit early, because like I mentioned to you, the first elections are going to be held in June this year. And that's why when we're talking about gen elections, we call them 2025, 2026. And some people are saying, no, we are electing in January next year, because I think the assumption there is that that's when you cast a vote for the president and member of parliament. And then local government comes out, the LC chairperson, mayor and all that. But no, actually the first elections will be in June, and there are special interest groups. And guess what? One of the special interest groups is the youth. I just talked about that. But to give you
that are mostly going to be locked out.
A number will be locked out. The fact is that a number will be locked out because there's a cutoff. Now, when you say that you must have been 18 at the time of registration, and then you are not 18 at that time, then because every day someone turns 18, so someone will definitely be left out. But to give a picture and context to it, we always take, and I hope I have a minute to do that, We always take our stakeholders back into how the electoral roadmap runs. The Constitution says that by Constitution, on the 12th of May in 2026, there's going to be a swearing in over an elected president. Okay, 2026, May 12th, that's when we swear in a new government. Government expires then, and you have to swear in a new government, starting, of course, with the head of state. And that gives you, the law says that we must organize and conduct presidential elections, and of course, general parliamentary and local government, within the first 30 days of the last 120 days of government. So when you go to 12th of May and you come back, it brings us into a period between 12th January and 9th of February. So elections in Uganda are held between the 12th of general parliamentary and presidential are held between the 12th of January and the 9th of February. So, but in order for you to have, for example, complete parliament and complete local government councils, you have to elect their structures, because there are elections that start from the grassroots. Like I mentioned, you can start as a youth in June this year and end up in parliament. You can start as an older person, councillor, or on the council, and end up in parliament.
How do you do that?
That's why we elect their structures, because they start electing their structures and committees from the village level, they progress to the parish level, to the sub-county level, the district level, then there are delegates conferences that are held to elect their leaders. All those are actually general elections. So in order to have those elections, we must have a register by the time we conduct the first elections, which will be in June this year. And now, in order to have those elections, you must have political parties organize and nominate flag bearers who must be registered voters. So the parties need the register urgently. Now, so they need it as early as May. Now, in order to have a clean register, you must update it. And by law, the law says you must update it for a period of not less than 21 days. And after updating the register, you must display it. And the law says for general elections, you must display it for a period of not less than 21 days. We're doing that in April. So there's been a register, and there's been continuous registration. And now we are opening up the last window and saying that those who have never registered before, or those who want to transfer, all those who have any issue, please come and we clean up this, because we are closing the register. And I think that's why we are closing the register, saying that there is a cutoff date so that we compile and tell Ugandans that we now have a register. Last time we had a register of 18.3 million. So that's when we make a declaration that we have a register of 18.3 million. I'm using the very last figure of 2021 because we are still, of course, it has since grown.
Of course.
And the other thing is that we're going to do several procurements, some of them that are lengthy. And you must come and present. We are procuring materials for so many voters. You must know the voters, the number of voters. So if you have voters, people being added into the register up to the last day, then you will have to ask a question. Because we're using manual, we're using ballot papers that are manual. How did you come to the figure of so many ballot papers when you don't know the number of voters? So there are also lengthy procurements that have to be done that require you to be specific. You know, the number of registered voters is, if I can use the last figure because we've not published a new figure, is 18.3 million. So we've produced this number of transparency in the electoral process. But there are also people who are going to nominate candidates. There are people who are going to present themselves as candidates. There are those who are going to support candidates, and there are those who are going to vote. So we must prepare a register, and that's why we prepare it and we cut off. So the law in Uganda is such that we have to cut off so that we produce a final register. And part of that is because our process is a bit complex, and I would say even unique, because if you read the Constitution, it mentions some of the factors, our historic factors, why we've had a unique kind of constitution and a unique way of representation, which we don't probably see in some other places. For example, the special interest groups that we do have. So unfortunately, maybe I've gone around a lot, but the issue is that there's going to be a cutoff. We're going to issue a statutory instrument. In law, it will be signed, and we'll say that as of the 10th of February, this is the number of persons who have been registered as voters. Anyone who attains the age of 18 years and above and has not been captured onto the voters register, we will have to wait for the next cycle of elections. That sounds a little bit uncharitable, but it's the guideline, it's the law, and the electoral system that we have in Uganda.
Well, update of the National Voters Register. That is the point of conversation today. And I'm speaking to the Assistant Public Relations Officer at the Electoral Commission, Mr. Paul Bukenya. Now, if you do have any questions for Mr. Bukenya, please reach us through WhatsApp number 0709 602 592. The same number is on your screen. Also, you can send a direct text message. I will be able to receive it and share it with Mr. Bukenya. Now, he has gone to length, he's gone some lengths to make us understand why it is important, first of all, to be on the voters register, but it's also important for you to check and see that your name is there, and also if you want to transfer your, to another polling station, it's important for you to do that. Now, if you have never registered, this is the time for you to do the same. So it's a very enlightening conversation, especially if you're interested in the matters, politics of this country, which you should be, because at the end of the day, the leaders we have in the nation tell what kind of people we are. We are the people that decide who stands, who contests, and who becomes our leader. So you can't say members of parliament are, for lack of a better word, maybe bogus in some cases when you did not contribute to voting them. So coming back to you, Mr. Bukenya, you said the registration starts today up to 22nd.
Up to the 10th of February.
Up to the 10th of February. And to get you right, you did say that if someone is to turn 18 after the 10th of February, they won't be.
We will have cut-off. They cannot be registered.
Okay. Now, those that are already 18, like myself and many Ugandans, we have 21 days.
Yeah. Now, what we need to know is that this is not a fresh registration of voters. So we already have a register. We already have many people already registered. Actually, the bulk of eligible Ugandans voters are already registered, which is why we're using the word update.
Okay.
So what will happen then is to enable those who have never registered before. They could be already, you know, adults, or they could be young adults. But it creates an opportunity as you go into the elections, the critical phase of the election. You create that window and you say, please come on board. This is the last call to come on board. Because I need to mention that the register has been continuously updated. From the last elections when we had 18.3 million voters, we've had by-elections, we've been updating the register. But also, by law, we have been extracting data from the National Identification and Registration Authority of qualified Ugandans. Because every time you register with NIRA, and the relationship is such that only verified citizens qualify to be voters.
Verified citizens, in terms of those that have national ID.
And the authority that verifies citizenship is NIRA. So when you're verified as a citizen and you've filled that form, and I know many of us have filled that form, one of the areas that you're asked is, what is your preferred polling station where you would like to vote from, voting location? Is it your place of residence, which you've indicated in the form, or your parish of origin? Is it your parish of residence or your parish of origin? So for those who have filled those forms and have been verified as citizens and they ticked where they indicate their preferred voting location, we extract them from the NIRA database. So as a result of that extraction, we've already brought on board, you know, hundreds of thousands of Ugandans, because we know, and I know we're going to publish the figure, but Ugandans have been brought onto our register. So it has been continuously updated.
Okay.
Then, of course, NIRA went out and registered learners, whom they've also passed on to us, who some of them were already 18, but some of them were below 18. And those are the ones we're asking that now present your NIN to us so that we can assign you a polling station. So then, of course, there've been people who have been approaching us, requesting for applying for transfer. We've been doing that as well during this time. This is the last window that by law we're supposed to create and say, the last call, we're kind of, if I could use the word, mop up, so that please, last call, we are closing this. Otherwise, the registration of voters has been going on continuously. And the register, there is a register. So it's not fresh registration, which is why Ugandans, I think, should not, I've had some people saying, no, you can't assign just 3 weeks to a critical task like this, but we already registered.
Now, you keep saying it is not a fresh registration. When exactly does the fresh registration happen?
We've not done a fresh registration because it has not been, if I can say, necessary, because there's a register.
Okay.
You know, I'm already a registered voter, and I've already checked using the link, because the commission shared the link, and my particulars are fine. I've not moved the voting location. The villages have not changed. The details have not changed. I'm fine. I'm good to go. I'm on the voters register. Okay. Actually, like I mentioned earlier, the bulk of eligible Ugandans are actually registered voters. If you look at the projections we had through the census and, of course, through our strategic planning, we already have a voters register. But, you know, it is updated. You have to bring someone on board, because every day someone turns 18.
That's right.
That's
and
why
every
I
day
think
someone decides to be decides to do their civic duty.
And then someone who is already 18 years and above, probably 30 or 40, will say, but by the way, this time around I want to vote. Let me go and get onto the register. Those are the people we are looking at. But also people want to transfer, because people have moved.
Yeah, that's right. So I would like for us to now look at the locations. Where is this registration taking place?
Now, also by law, because everything is really steeped in the law, by law, registration is at the parish level. In order for you to qualify to be registered, you must be, we will put you, we assign you when you take you through the processes at a polling station located in your parish of origin or your parish of residence. So, we are in Nakasero Parish here. I think this is Nakasero Parish. And we have polling stations within Nakasero Parish. And so as a person who is a resident in Nakasero Parish, or if you originate from Nakasero Parish, you qualify to be registered and assigned a polling station within this parish. Okay. So what our teams are going to be doing is that we've sent out teams that are going to be registering and setting up update stations at the parish level.
Okay.
And they are going to be publicizing this, because the parish is big. We have supervisors, they have megaphones, but we're also working with LCs. We have short announcements that are running on the, you know, on the local radios that are out there in the field. But also mobilization, we've called on stakeholders to mobilize, as well as publicity at national level, at regional level, and district level. So the registration stations, the locations for registrations are not villages, they are not at polling stations, it's at the parish level. Although within the parish, the team will adopt a mobile approach. So that's why we are advising and calling out to our stakeholders to be really in touch with the local leaders. If you don't know your local leaders, this is the time to know them. They are very important, the LCs. But also our parish supervisors have been trained to conduct vote education, and they have been issued with a megaphone to do a run through and mention that today the team is stationed at this point within your parish, as well as support, of course, from the sub-county level.
Okay, interesting. Yes, 2026 is around the corner. We've had many conversations regarding the national elections, and they are now going to start. But Mr. Kenya did mention something that is very pertinent for me to repeat, and that is that the elections are starting 2025. We will have the voting of interest group leaders, that is persons living with disabilities, elder persons representatives, and also youth leaders. And this is going for all of these. For the youth, it's in June. And how about the others?
Special interest groups elections are starting June.
For all
all the three. But there's also another category, except that its the method of compiling their register is different. The workers.
Oh yes, workers.
So the workers, and then there's also the UPDF. It is represented in Parliament. So, except that the composition of the UPDF Electoral College will be, is by also the UPDF Act, the Army Council, how it's composed. So, it's not, of course, at every village and all that. Doesn't progress like that. As well as the workers, the unions, the labor unions and all that. They don't really start from the village. So there is a different structure for composing workers. But those 5 special interest groups that are represented in Parliament, the UPDF, the workers through the labor unions, and non-unionized workers, because there are workers who are not under unions, but they are workers. You're a worker.
I am. I am, yes.
So, but for those 3 that start from the village level, the youth, persons with disabilities, and older persons, we've indicated the times for their nominations, and their levels of their progressive elections start in June this year. And that's why we're saying general elections actually are starting in June this year. And that's why we say we must have a final complete register and avoid having issues that someone turned 18 in November and they want to participate in youth elections because they are 18 years and they qualify to contest in elections. So the elections start in June and they progress. We've issued a comprehensive timelines and indicated when the different categories of SIGs or special interest groups will have their nominations and their elections. So they will have nominations, progress from the village level to the parish level, to the sub-county level, the municipalities, the districts, until they form the district councils and then compose, we compose the electoral colleges that will come for the national delegates conferences that will elect the 5 members of parliament for those special interest groups. Okay. So that's how we build it. It comes from the village, progresses, and comes up. And so those 5 representatives will have to be elected in time for the other general elections, so that when we close on the 9th of February, the elections, and I think you remember what I told you, that elections are held between the 12th of January, the general parliamentary and local government elections are held between the 12th of January and the 9th of February. By the 9th of February, we must have completed composing all the structures. In other words, must have elected the president. I'm talking 9th of February 2026. Finished election of the president, election of all members of parliament, including special interest groups, whose structures have started in June this year. And we must have elected all local government councils, including special interest groups, because these special interest groups are also represented in local governments. So that's why we go back and start the elections a little early and build their structures. The best word I think to use is to compose their structures, so that by the time we come into these 30 days, we have a fully composed, and then we'll have complied with the law. We'll have complied with the Constitution and the Presidential Elections Act, Parliamentary Elections Act, and the Local Governments Act. So that's how we are, dear viewers. That's how our electoral roadmap moves, and that's why we update the register, cut it off, and get into the elections. And those are the voters that we have. Much the same way we do other activities where we pronounce that this is the cutoff date. You remember during the census, and the date is issued and says, as at this date, these were the people who were in Uganda as at this date. Or just like you go to a bank and they say, as at this time, we close, and the bank is closed, and you have so much money, but you say, oh, maybe now there's electronic banking and all that, but of course, you know that in life there are always cut-offs. They say this is the cut-off date for admission to this program, and then you say, but I qualify for it, but then they say, oh, I think we need to try.
You missed the date.
We are sorry, but we will facilitate you during the next intake. Okay,
now let's look at issues of accuracy and transparency. What measures are in place to ensure accuracy and transparency during the update process?
Yeah, first of all, to go back, also updating the register is part of building credibility and enhancing accuracy. And promoting transparency in the processes. So those are very, very critical, values that we look at. During this update, we've uploaded the register online. So those who are registered voters can go and check, and that's part of transparency. So you can check and confirm that, yes, I'm a registered voter, and then these are my particulars, from which you can now make a decision that maybe, no, this needs to be improved, this particular, or I need to apply for transfer. But we also are saying that we are at the stations where we are providing a hard copy of the National Voters Register, where people, actually, we call it kind of a mini display, because when we do come out to do an update, you can come and verify your particulars. Not everyone is on the website or internet, and we know that. So part of transparency in the process is that a copy of the register is actually going to be available at the update stations. So
Okay,
if you have any doubt, you can look at your particulars and confirm it.
All right, and I would like to also share the link that the Electoral Commission has also shared with us. You can visit ec.or.ug/register. Again, it is ec.or.ug/register.
Yeah.
And that's the page you're seeing on the screen. You can visit it to see where you stand, if your name is there, if there needs to be certain changes. And so when you visit that link and you put in your particulars, that's what you will find.
Yeah.
Those are the details you'll find, but Mr. Kenya can actually
those are the details, and they're
further.
very important. And I'm telling Ugandans, please, on top of your name, because people have put a lot of importance on their name, which is very important, also write down your voter number. The voter number is proof that you're a registered voter.
And that's a number
Just
you
like
get
your
when you
name
register.
is proof that you are a verified citizen.
Okay.
Okay, so you put down your voter number. You never know when you need it. You want to nominate a candidate, and we ask you, are you a registered voter? And for political parties, please encourage your supporters to download those particulars and have them, because they're going to say, I'm supporting you, and then they have no proof. That's proof. But part of the transparency and making the register accessible is exactly that. For people, you don't need to drive all the way from Kampala to go back to Namaingo, to Yumbe, to Chisoro to check and see if you're on the register. You can do it here using that link.
Okay.
But also for those who are not able to access the internet and all that, like I mentioned, the registers will be part of the materials at update stations, so that people can come and say, and that register is going to help you to confirm that, yes, I'm registered, but I think this particular was not correctly captured.
Like
can you please correct it?
Spelling of names.
Spelling of names.
Okay.
Mostly spelling of names. What we don't want people to do during this time, which we've seen people doing, is radical changes to their particulars, their dates of birth.
But people change names.
No,
Even the president added a name.
No, we are working at
elections.
spelling, not changing spelling of names, because not changing names and adding names, because we think that should go through a detailed process that involves even swearing affidavits, or going back to NIRA, which has the national database of verified citizens. Because we also find out, we've also found out that people tend to use this time to do their politics. I want to participate in youth elections, and I think the timeline is 29 years and below, so and I'm going to 31. So let me change my date of birth so that I can contest for youth election. I think all older persons elections, or whatever. So we are strict. There are guidelines that will be followed by our teams. So there is a limit to which particulars actually you can. It's on a spelling of a name, and if there, we have forms where you can raise the fundamental issues, which we don't want someone to take advantage of this process to radically change their details without going through due process. There are processes that are supposed to be followed when you are changing. You talked about His Excellency the President saw an affidavit, went through the procedure,
so
he gazetted documents, he did everything. So I think that one was, and we saw so many other candidates, aspiring candidates, do that, because the law is very strict, and you can easily be disqualified because of if there's a mismatch in those particulars. So
Okay.
transparency is exactly built in the system that we're doing.
All right. Now, Mr. Bukenya, briefly, before we go to the next point of discussion, briefly, if I live, let's say, in Chira municipality and I'm a registered voter, maybe the last time I updated my particulars, I was living in Nakawa, but now I'm in Chira and I want to vote maybe for a member of parliament in Chira. How does that work?
I think that's why we are opening a window for people to apply for transfer of their voting location. So at one time you were a resident in Nakawa, and the basis for registration is place of origin
And
or
residency.
place of residence. Not in those two, in one of them. So your status now is that you are still reflecting Nakawa division because you are resident there. Nothing wrong with that. You have an opportunity now to tell us that I have since moved to Chira municipality. And there are forms that will be filled. But we also need to ask you questions.
Like which
you don't just request for transfer to a place. We want to establish that you are now a resident of the place where you are applying to be transferred to. Or you originate from there.
Resident,
no, a resident of that place. We didn't attach any other describer.
Okay.
Or what is. Why? Because we don't want, and this is also a regulation, you don't just move to a place. You must be connected to that place. You must be a resident, either a resident, parish of residence, because that's the law. You are registered as a voter in a parish where you reside or where you originate from. So do you reside in Chira municipality? Yes. You will even be required to show us proof. So come with something that shows that now actually you're a resident of Chira.
Okay,
And
another
because
one.
now we have your particulars of Nakawa. Then we will fill the form and take you. Otherwise, we'll have people moving to flood an area for some reasons, and they are not connected to it in any way. Then we'll have broken the law. It must be where you reside or where you originate from. For example, you may say, oh, okay, now I want actually to go to Mitiana. That's my district of origin.
Which brings me to my other question. I reside in Chira and I come from Nakaseke, and probably I want to contest for any office in Nakaseke. Do I have to transfer and I'll be a registered voter in Nakaseke for me to be eligible to contest for any seat in that district or constituency?
In order to for those who want to aspiring to contest, it is good that you are registered in the area which you want to contest and represent. It's very, very important, and this is an opportunity for you to apply to transfer to such an area. And of course, you must meet the other qualification. You either reside there or you originate from there.
Okay.
Now, to contest, to be nominated as a member of parliament, you don't need to be registered in that particular area, the constituency. But of course, you know that politically that will work against you. To be nominated as a member of parliament, you must be a registered voter. You can be registered in Arua and you contest in Nakaseke. But why do you risk that political? You know, and now this is just advisory, of course,
because
we've
even
seen
your
it
people
happen.
would like to see at the polling station.
Yeah, that you are voting for yourself. So you contest in an area where you are not even going to vote for yourself. I think you would have committed a political mistake. And that's now advisory from what we've seen before. And maybe I shouldn't be doing that. But there is an opportunity also for you to apply for transfer. So why do you risk? And which brings us to a very important thing. Aspiring candidates must go back to our roadmap. We issued this roadmap 2 years ago, and we indicated the activities to be conducted, including this activity. So by now you should have made up your mind so that you don't complicate things during nominations, including those who need to resign as public servants and want to contest.
How long do I need if I'm Olive here at UBC and I want to contest as woman member of parliament for Nakaseke?
We've
How
indicated
long do
timelines. We've indicated timelines, and now I'm reading Nakaseke seriously. We've indicated timelines for resignations. They're on the roadmap. In the case of member of parliament, when you should resign, I don't have the brief here, but it is there. But 90 days to nominations. Our nominations are in, that is October or something like that. I want to be exact, but we have the timelines. in the roadmap, please go and look at it. If you make up your mind when it is just a days to nominations, you will not be eligible to contest because you've not resigned in time to contest. So for presidential, 30 days. For local government, the days are also in the law. I don't have all the detail here with me, but it is clearly indicated on the roadmap, including those who have to ascertain their documents, academic documents, because we get so many issues. So the roadmap is very clear, and everyone who is interested in contesting for the elections, this is the election year. By now you would have ticked off those boxes. I've organized my academic papers. I've gone to National Council for Higher Education for certification. I've verified my documents as required with UNEB. I've resigned within the period, or I'm preparing to resign. By the end of June, I'll have resigned from this position because I want to contest in elections for nominations in October.
Well, in a nutshell, you should have your ducks in a row, get everything that you need for you to be a contestant ready by now. And we have from today up until the 10th of February when it comes to the update of the voters register. Now, Mr. Kenya, I have a few comments coming through, though I feel like some questions you already answered, like this one is asking, why did the commission reduce the number of days for verification of voters register? And he said this is according to the law. We work within a certain time frame so that other aspects of the election process can also take place. Now, this one says, good morning. What about a person who is 18 and above, has no ID and wants to vote?
Okay.
The question is, what about a person who is 18 and above, has no ID, but they want to vote? They have no national ID. I think that's what they mean.
I think that could be because they've never registered as with NIRA as citizens and been verified as citizens. So take the first steps, and you can do it during this time because we are going still to collaborate. We're going to work together because remember, in order for you to qualify as a voter, you must be verified as a citizen of Uganda. And the verifying authority is NIRA.
Yes.
So definitely, while we're talking about Electoral Commission leading in this, we're going to do collaborative work so that we don't break the law. So can you take the step? Come. That's why we say during the update, we enable citizens of Uganda of 18 years and above who have never registered before to do so. So present yourself at an update station within your parish and you will be assisted to go through the processes. Don't miss the opportunity to participate in elections.
Okay, and Isaac Mutiaba, he says, Isaac Mutiaba of National Unity Platform, we thank Electoral Commission for the good work. So far we have trust in them. That is someone giving you your flowers. And this one says, good morning. He is from Movara, Arua City. When will the primary elections be?
Primary elections are not organized by the National Electoral Commission. They're organized by political parties, but we know that parties are already mobilizing to their structures to have their primaries. And like I mentioned, which is why we need the register, because they will also use the National Voters Register. I think the timelines are any time between April and May, which is why we're working closely with them as well to mobilize participation. So you need to talk to your political party and see the program that they have lined up for purposes of party primaries.
Okay. Now, this one probably joined us after you answered this question, but he's asking, good morning, let him talk about school children who are 17 years now and will be over 18 years at the time of elections. What should they do? And he continues to say it will be unfair for them not to participate in the election next year. Briefly, you can advise him on that.
Our law does not have a provision, if I can use the word, to register you in anticipation. So in our law, we cannot register you in anticipation that we register you today, you are 17 years and 8 months. By the time of elections, you will be 18. So the law is such that you must be 18 years at the time of registration. And I explained it earlier that on that basis, we will be taking persons who have attained the age of 18. And that's why the dates of birth are very important. What you declare to NIRA, what you declare to Electoral Commission, and what you declare when you're registering as a voter. So you must have obtained the age of 18 years and above in order to be registered. And when the cutoff is announced, persons who will attain the age of 18 years after the cutoff will not be, will have missed out on that, because, you know, every day someone turns 18.
That's true. So they will have to wait
for another cycle
and be voters in 2031, right? And Fred from PG says, can a person change his or her polling station from one district to another, or you can only change the polling station but within the same district?
Now you can change, you can apply for transfer of your voting location, which is basically the polling station, if you've satisfied the other two issues that I talked about.
Yes.
So you are in PG, you want to go to, you know, to Ruwero, you want to go to Nakaseke. I think we use that one. It is very good now. So you want to go to Nakaseke. You must provide proof that you now reside in Nakaseke.
Yes.
Or you originate from Nakaseke.
Okay.
So you can actually apply for transfer of voting locations from one station which is in District A to another station which is in District B. And you will be taken through those procedures, which you must satisfy.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Bukenya. The views are coming through, many of them. I think this is not the last time we are going to have Mr. Bukenya here. This year, we are going to have him constantly and consistently, because there is so many questions and so little time to answer in 1 hour. But we'll make sure that we have him from time to time to help us understand the electoral process, so that we can do our civic duty as Ugandan citizens to vote and choose our leaders. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Olive, and UBC team for inviting me to talk about this very critical activity. And definitely, we're looking forward to other engagements. We'll be coming here to explain more issues as the exercise starts and progresses.
All right. Well, you're still watching Good Morning Uganda. I'm Olive Monica Najuma. Now, up next is sports updates with Ruben Pima Chibirango. Stick around.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Juko. Yo. Watch.